home. Unwritten has no excuses from here. Bad karma went too fast, too early. Foot rub love is closing in. Carriot's not without a shot as well. An unwritten kicks away. Carriot's trying to give Antonio his 150 win and will do it. Carriot scores. Over.
Shoes, Osiris or bust. Before there was us, Latino good luck. Suspicious of crush, that tear the core up. That basement soul of love, bright guns and young trucks.
Hello folks, welcome back to another video and to day 7 of Vlogmas. Now this video is one that I've wanted to make for a while, but it just never felt like the right time because things were still happening and progression was still being made, but I'm really excited to bring it to you today. So I have spent the last few days going through hours and hours and hours of footage of me and Eve from over the last year and a half, and I'm really excited to bring you a bit of a transformation video of Eve's retraining over the last year and a half. And one of the reasons why it did feel like the right time is because sadly, at some point in the next little while, my journey with Eve is going to come to an end because she is a sales horse. She belongs to my coach and she's been for sale now since about mid-October. And looking back just at footage from last year as I compiled everything together just made me smile a lot and think about how far she's come and how much she's taught me and how much we have grown together. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, even though she's not sold yet, making this video is and has been a little bit bittersweet because I love that mare with all of my heart, but alas, I'm not made of money. If I could buy her, I would, but she has definitely ignited a love for off-the-track thoroughbreds in my heart, and I really hope to be able to adopt, retrain, and rehome some thoroughbreds of my own in the future. So if you're interested in seeing how she went from a not very good racehorse to a wonderful, sporty, sweet, and spicy little mare, then stay tuned. So before I get into the nitty-gritty on her progress, I realized the other day that I've never really said much about her life prior to her arriving on the farm. So Eve was bred in New York State. She was born on March 8th, 2017, International Women's Day. Her sire was Big Brown, who was a Kentucky bred stallion, foaled in 2005 with career earnings of $3.6 million. By the looks of what's on Equibase, Big Brown won the Kentucky Derby in 2008 as well as the Preakness in 2008. So she has some pretty cool and athletic lines. And then her dam is a mare named Tidal Slam, who's by Stormy Atlantic. And if you know anything about North American thoroughbreds, you'll know the name Stormcat very well, who's a kind of notorious stallion for throwing, spicy progeny. And I don't really subscribe to that, but she has Stormcat, and then Stormy Atlantic's mom was by Seattle Slew. So Eve has some pretty cool racing bloodlines. That being said, she was not a very successful racehorse. She had 8 starts and 1 win with career earnings of $14,060, which is not very much for a racehorse. Now, I'm not quite sure what she got up to in between the end of her racing career and early 2022, but in the early months of last year, she was donated to a wonderful thoroughbred rehoming organization in New York. There are lots of different organizations like this that exist, and they're wonderful because the breeders and owners and trainers of these horses care about them so much that they don't want them to end up in the auction pipeline. So they donate them to these organizations who place them in appropriate homes, and that is how Eve ended up at our farm. So in May, I think it was May 10th of 2022, she arrived at the farm with 1 other thoroughbred and had a little bit of downtime, even though she had had some downtime at the rehoming organization. One of my friends put some rides on her, and then she had some time off, and then I started riding her in early July. I think our first ride together was on July 4th, and that is where this video starts. So on July 4th, 2022, I had my first ride on this little bay mare that my coach had adopted from in the States. and little did I know that I would fall absolutely in love with her. I am notorious for going into way too much detail, so I'm going to try to keep things brief. Throughout the month of July, we kind of just got to know each other. I started to introduce her to things like hacking very, very slowly and started to just build a partnership. Now, she was definitely the most fresh off the track thoroughbred I had ever ridden before. She had had a few rides, but not much compared to some of the other OTTBs I'd worked with. But like 3 weeks in, you can see here, I got a vibe straight away of what kind of horse she was because I was riding her bareback in a halter. Now, the first 15 to 20 rides that I did on her were focused on three main things. The first was getting her comfortable hacking because I think it's so wonderful for thoroughbreds' brains to get out into an open space and just to enjoy nature. The second was to get her used to contact, not like accepting the contact, but just having some contact with the bit. And then the third was getting her to work in an even pace. So that took probably a few weeks, and then here in August I started really trying to ask her to connect or to accept the contact. And you can see here at the start it's very inconsistent. This is probably the second or third time I had ever asked for it, and she's, you know, ducking above and below. She's a little bit mouthy with the bit, but she is starting to understand it. Two things that she has always been is very smart and also eager and willing to learn. So once she picks something up and has a basic idea of it, she's pretty easy to start working within that. You know, the contact has taken a while for her to get consistently, but it didn't take her long to pick it up at all. So then later in August, I decided that she had reached a point where she was even enough in her paces and consistent enough in accepting the contact that we could try some jumping, because I thought that it would really help to open up her back, improve her canter, and give her something else to focus on than just the flat work. And she took to it like a duck to water. Now, that being said, my main focus was still on the flat work, and in these clips from September of 2022, you can see how much that her consistency in the contact improved in just a matter of weeks. Though she would still lose the connection, she would hold it for more and more and was really starting to work through her back. And I was very slowly starting to see some development in her muscle and some changes over her top line. And I was just really thrilled with how she was coming along in the walk and trot. Now, that being said, our canter work was our nemesis because tension would creep in and she was still a little avoidant of the contact at the canter. I think the canter is the gait that I think some thoroughbreds can take the longest to improve. And you can see here that we're just having, I don't want to say we're having a bit of a fight, but it's just quick, a little bit chaotic. There's no connection. She's not really working through her top line. And I came to discover that one of the best ways to help with the issues that we were having was to teach her to steer and move off of my inside leg to reduce the amount that I had to rely on my hands for steering. And it did make such a difference in the months that followed. Now, another issue we had was picking up the correct lead going to the right. I would often do a lead change across the diagonal like here to get the canter to the right, but it was even more chaotic than the canter to the left. And to be honest, it's only in the last probably few months that our right canter lead is really solid. So in September, I really focused on instilling some flat work basics, really developing her in the walk and trot and slowly trying to strengthen our chaotic canter. And then we moved into beautiful October, which is my favorite month of the year. And I really started to enjoy my hacking with her. I think this was the month where she really discovered a love for hacking. And to this day, she's one of my favorite horses to take out in the field because she just loves it so much. So October brought some more jumping fun, and she really started to discover her technique and started to lift her knees a little bit. For the longest time, I kept things super basic and did a lot of cross rails. So this session here in particular was the one where she started to rush fences a little bit, but it wasn't quite to the point that it would get to early in 2023. So then we moved into November, and this is where things started to shift, and I realized that I needed to make a few changes and to take a few steps back just to address some underlying anxieties that she had and a few ongoing issues that were not related to riding at all. So there was one ride in particular, not this one, but it was a very similar night where the arena was very loud. It was a cold night and she was being very, very spooky, and every little thing was setting getting her off, and she went over threshold, and it just, I think, caused some anxiety issues for her, and things just kind of went downhill. So she had always been a bit tough to catch, but this night here was a few days after that ride had happened. I think this was November 22nd. And she was not interested in being caught to come in for a ride. And that told me all I needed to know about how the ride on the weekend had a negative impact on her, and that is not what I wanted. So this reaction told me that we needed to take a step back from riding and focus on rebuilding some trust after a not so great ride. And this was definitely one of those instances where I listened to the horse and it paid off. She was clearly trying to tell me something. So I went back to the drawing board and I decided, do you know what? I'm going to try to see if I can use positive reinforcement to help get over this catching issue. I'm going to take a step back from riding. I'm not going to ride her at all. My coach agreed, and we focused on rebuilding trust and sorting through these anxieties. So this night here was maybe the second session that I did, and I started just trying to teach her recall, associating me with good things, teaching her targeting and just basic positive reinforcement behavior to create some positive associations with me and to start building back up the balance in the trust piggy bank that I had with her. And it was during this time of groundwork that her silly, goofy personality started to come out. So as I started to do some positive reinforcement work with her in the arena, I started to realize that she didn't seem super comfortable leaving the bottom end of the arena away from the door. I think that part of it was herd boundness, and it made me wonder if some of the tension and anxiety that she had under saddle was related to just this general tension or anxiety about being away from her friends and being on her own, because these issues didn't start to come up until the size of the arena went up and she could no longer see other horses when being ridden. And that theory also tracked up with some of the other issues that she had on the ground. So the catching issue could be a result of herd boundness, as well as she had some barn anxiety, where if she was in the barn on her own, even in a stall, she did not want to stand still. The cross ties were not something she was a fan of, and it took a lot of slow, steady partnership building and exposure training to make her realize that, you know, being on her own with me is okay. So on top of the positive reinforcement training in the arena, I started to take her on some little in-hand hacks on her own. We went for walks together and she seemed to really enjoy it. And then on, what day was it? December 18th, after about 3.5 weeks off, I had my first ride on her outside. It was her first time ever being ridden in the snow, and she gave me the nicest canter that she had ever done under saddle, more relaxed than I think I had ever felt her. And it just went to show that listening to your horse and giving them the grace of needing a little bit of a break, a mental break, physical break, will result in wonderful things. She had never felt so soft or pliable, and as I was riding, I got quite emotional because it was one of those moments where I knew I had done right by the horse, and that was a really good feeling.
Look at you, caught in the act.
And then shortly after that, she had another 2 weeks off while I went away to New Brunswick to visit my family for the holidays. And I came back and she was like a completely different horse. She was so much more comfortable in the arena, away from her friends. When I got there, she trotted up to greet me. Now, the next clip you are about to see is a blooper that I've never shown. So later in January, we had a riding lesson outside and we were having a canter. It was her first time ever cantering in the field. And we had a little bit of a miscommunication and she kind of tanked off for a few strides, but we came back and we settled. It made me panic a little bit, but we did end the session with some really good skills, and for me it was a valuable lesson in softening when she got quick rather than tightening in my hands and getting tense in my body. And it was one of those things that I think had to happen in order for us to progress as a partnership and for me to gain the skills necessary to help her along in her journey.
Are you guys saying hi? Huh?
In doing videos like this, I think it's important not just to show their progress under saddle, but also just to show how they grow as an individual. Her self-confidence and confidence away from the herd grew so much over the course of the winter, and I definitely think that that translated into her confidence under saddle. I did a lot, and I say a lot, of riding outside in the snow to help strengthen her muscles and to work on her top line, and also just to get out of the arena, to be honest. Now, obviously, all throughout this time, I wasn't doing this completely on my own. I was having regular lessons with my coach, who's also her owner, and our lessons were instrumental in improving our flat work and our partnership. Now, it was also around this time that I discovered crazy gallopy arena Eve for the first time. This was when I knew that she was really kind of overcoming her anxiety issues in the arena, and she realized that she could go for a rip. Now, for whatever reason, I decided that it was a great idea to do a lot of bareback work with the off-the-track thoroughbred in the middle of the cold and spicy winter, but she was actually really good. This clip is from our very first bareback canter, and she was an absolute angel. And though we hadn't jumped in a few months, I decided to see how her improved flat work would improve her jump, and this was also her first time doing a vertical, and oh my god, she was so much more rhythmical to the fence, and it was just, it felt so great. Now, spring brought warmer temperatures, more riding lessons, improvements in our canter, and a renewed focus on jumping after a very, very cold winter. And it was these jumping sessions in April that really made me realize that this mare was destined to be a jumper of some kind. She's not a hunter type, but she loves jumping and is so brave and keen. Now, you can see here that we do have some keenness issues. She was very, very eager and forward to the fences, almost rushy at times. So I had to think of some exercises that would help beat the rushing without discouraging her eagerness to jump.
Hi.
Now, in early May of this year, I decided that it was a fabulous idea to ride her tackless with not much preparation at all. With Merlin, I prepped for weeks, and with her, I did about 10 minutes of neck rope training before I was like, yeah, let's just take the lead rope off the halter and walk around. And we didn't have much steering. It improved throughout the session, but she was so calm and chilled and game and was just like, yeah, Mom, I don't really know what's going on, but it's cool and I'm gonna try. And to be honest, this point in her retraining was just about having fun. I didn't have any particular goals, like we were in riding lessons, but I was just doing a lot of fun, silly stuff with her that really helped to kind of remind me of the kind of fun that I had with kids when I was younger, and it just made me so, so happy. Now, around this time, there were some shifts in the herd dynamics of the field that she had been in, and she just wasn't happy, so she was moved into a new field with the yearlings and another off-the-track thoroughbred that my coach got from the same organization named Champ, and she was so much happier. This day, I remember going out and she saw me coming and came and just waited at the gate for me, and it absolutely warmed my heart, especially to compare it back to the horse who, 6 months previously had been running away because of a bad experience. We also had our first proper, I'm not going to say gallop, but fast canter in the field, and it felt so incredible to be on the back of such an athletic horse. I don't even know how to explain it, but riding an ex-racehorse and cantering an ex-racehorse feels completely different to any other type of horse I've ridden, completely different to Merlin, completely different to a lot of the other warm bloods and Arabians and even some other thoroughbreds that I've ridden.
Are you being a monkey? hi.
So then the summer went on, and to be honest, her flat work continued to improve. We started to do some more dressage type stuff, but I was really just focusing on teaching her a lot of different skills that would make her more attractive as a sales project. So one of those things, like you see here, is teaching her to go bitless. I have a list of things that we did, but it's too much to put into words. This is a clip from, I think, early July, and it just shows the improvement in her canter and in my seat, bareback, not too bad if I do say so myself. And then this was her first jump in a while, and you can see how much more measured and calm she is. We'd kind of taken some time away from jumping and done a lot of canter pulls, little kind of raised cavaletti. This was her first time ever jumping a plank, and she was so good.
Are you the best girl? Yeah. Are you itchy? Are you itchy?
So September was when we started talking about posting her for sale, because it just felt like it was right. I was still doing lots of new things with her, like these baby little, you can't even really call them cross-country fences, but little logs outside, and she was just so game, and it just felt like the right time. So behind the scenes, I started to work on her sales video, and part of that involved doing things to include in the sales video. So a lot of the videos that you saw in like September and October were, yes, for the experience, but also just to have some good up-to-date footage to include that would show some of her talent. So like doing the grid here, this was her first time jumping 2.9, was to show her form over bigger fences. So October came, and we started to play around with some things like baby counter-canter strides and going across the diagonal and switching leads. Here was a attempt at a shoulder in, and she did pretty good. I was pretty happy. We had been working on it for a little bit, and this was also the day that I filmed the flat work section of her sales video. And as I was riding her, all I could think of was how much her trot had improved. Her trot used to be quite short and choppy, but I feel like in the last few months she's really started tracking up as she's gotten pretty damn consistent in her contact, and she's developed some really beautiful lift as well. It's like riding a completely different horse to Eve even, 6 to 8 months ago. And noticing these little progressions is such a rewarding feeling. This is her and her bestie Champ. They absolutely love each other and are inseparable, and it just absolutely warms my heart. Natalie also came out and got some of my favorite footage and pictures ever. At this point, she was for sale. I had completed her sales video. I had absolutely no idea how long she was going to be around, so I wanted some nice memories and photos. And I also decided this night that it was a great idea to try jumping a water trough, and she was absolutely game, if a little bit strong. So the next weekend we did some trot jumping to really make her sit back and think and slow down, and my god did it work, because this is the effort that she ended on, and it felt so incredible. The next day we went on her first ever trail ride, and it was so nice to get her off property for a fun little adventure and to have an off-property experience together before she sold. And she was so brave and led the whole time.
Well done, darling. Good job. Good job. Well done. Very hilly, isn't it?
At the end of October, we did a dressage clinic where she got some really nice comments and scores from the judge who was running the clinic. And yeah, since then I've just been really enjoying my time with her and celebrating the journey we've had together. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, getting to see the slightly crazy difference of Eve of July of 2022 versus Eve of December of 2023. I know the clips only go up until the end of October, but I feel like a lot of the other clips, recent clips that I have either been in Vlogmas videos or recent videos on the channel that I just didn't feel like reusing. I've made some similar videos like this in the past, the Horses Who Made Me videos, which I'm hoping to do a few next year, as well as the 2-part Merlin transformation videos that I made earlier this year. I don't know, I think when you see a horse so often, it can be so easy to get stuck in the moment and not to realize how far you've really come. I really wanted to just, as this year comes to a close, reflect on the wonderful journey that I've had with Eve so far. That's probably coming to an end quite soon. Yeah, and just let this video sit as a love letter to her for being such a wonderful and patient teacher for me. I know a lot of people will say that people who are retraining or training horses are the teacher, but I just don't believe that. They teach us so much more than we teach them. Whenever she sells, I will be very sad. As you can see, I'm close to tears right now, but I will send her into her new home knowing that I have done everything I can to prepare her for a successful second career after a not so successful racing career. And yeah, basically from now until she sells, I'm just going to enjoy every ride, give her all the kisses and all the treats, and just enjoy the time that I have left with her. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up, comment down below, and hit the subscribe button if you want to see more. As I'm recording this, we are getting so close to 500 subscribers. It is insane. We're currently at 477, which is wild. I think I was at 430 at the beginning, like when I first started filming Vlogmas. I've been making YouTube videos for almost 2 years now, and the channel growth has been slow, but it has been so rewarding. And I feel like I'm really building a small but mighty, like-minded community of people who love their horses, who want to do better by their horses, and to celebrate the small things and taking the slower path. So until next time, which is an exciting video that is a repeat of a video that I did last year in my Vlogmas that wasn't Vlogmas. Take it easy. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are. Don't forget to give your horse or pony a hug or a kiss the next time you see them, and we will see you in 48 hours. Bye!
Wish you success from the start to the end. Hoping the freedom to spend with your friends. I've been a free boy so I can attend when my absence might rend.